Friends, welcome to the learning platform Claim IAS. Today, in this lecture, we are going to discuss paper 1, that is Western thinkers. And the first Western thinkers that we are going to study is Plato. So before we start with Plato, let us know the learning outcomes. What are we going to study here? That is Socrates and Sophist, Introduction to Plato, prominent work of Plato, Plato's source of influence, and theory of ideas. So these are all things that we are going to cover in this today's lecture. So Socrates was born in Athens. Athens is a place that is located in ancient Greek. It's a city-state. So that is one. And second, Socrates used to teach the method of dialectics. Friend, the method of dialectics here means dialectics is nothing but a debate. So, like 4 to 5 students will sit at a place, 4 to 5 students, and those 4 to 5 students have to find the answer through the debate. That is what dialectics mean. And the third one is Socrates taught the youth of Athens about the true knowledge. Uh, in upcoming slides, you will understand the meaning of true knowledge and all, and good life. That is very important that we are going to discuss in upcoming slides. Now, friends, now it is sophist. Who were sophists? So, sophists were educationists. Well, they were educationalists means almost a group of people from the ruler class of Athens. They come together and get the educations. That is what sophist education meant. And sophists used to give political educations. Why they used to give political educations? They used to give political educations. The reason is the ruler class children will be the future ruler. They have to know how to rule the city state. And sophists were inspiring the youth to join the politics, suggesting the power is mean of good life because it gives access to power and wealth. See, friends, the method of teaching, if you see, of sophist, that is all about good life, access to power, wealth. So these all, do you think is it a good or bad? That will decide after the knowing that what were the outcomes of this. This actually, friends, having a good life and access to power and wealth, that is not the that is not the good life actually. Why? Because when you are thinking about good life, it's all about self pleasure. So we have to avoid this. This is not the right way of teaching. And this sophist education teaches that self-interest is over the above interest of the society. Here, the first priority is given to the self-interest, then they think of society. That is what sophist education means. So for anything, like if you see the failure of a country or anything, that only two things are mainly responsible. First thing, the first is educations, and the second thing is politicians. So that is what same thing happens even in Athens. So the Peloponnesian War was between Athens and Sparta. See, as you can see, the two city states, there was a war between Athens and Sparta. That is what Peloponnesian War meant. So what actually happened in Peloponnesian War? The state often fought against one another for supremacy of the regions because both region belongs to a single Greek, ancient Greek. The Peloponnesian War was fought during the time of Socrates and Plato between Athens and Sparta, influencing political developments and of the period. In the War of Sparta defeated Athens. So Sparta defeated Athens. The defeat of Athens, the hands of Sparta, is considered one of the major factors behind the turning point of philosophy. Okay. See, friends, actually the war took place between Sparta and Athens. Here, what happened is when the war took place, Athens got defeated. Athens got defeated. And there is a victory of Sparta. Sparta won the war. So, what actually happened after the winning of war of Sparta? So Plato realized why we lost the war. What were the reasons? What could we what we should have not done in order that today our Athens would be not be defeated. So these things he thought, and so after understanding the reasons of the defeat, so Plato's turning towards philosophy was the major reasons that defeat of Athens. Now we move to the next one, that is how sophist traditions. See, friends, how sophist traditions. of education became the reasons for defeat of Athens. The main reason was the education system in the Athens. See, friends, sophist is nothing but, as we have seen previously, that sophist educations was totally based on self-interest. Sophist would teach young peoples from rich families about politics and art of speech. See, friends, here art of speech basically mean that how can you bring the common people, how can someone impress the common people of Athens from the sugar-coated words? That is what art of speech that were used by the politicians of Athens. So to know more about sophist teaching, there was emphasis how one can get ahead in politics, utilize the power, achieve the personal goals. Here, politics of sophist. Basically, they teach the young youth that coming into the power is nothing. Just think of yourself, think of the wealth, think of the pleasure. That is what the reality of life mean. That is what sophist used to teach the youngsters of Athens. And for sophist, virtue or the excellence is the ability to acquire things that gives you self-pleasures. Self-pleasure in the sense, what gives self-pleasures? More wealth. Here, more wealth can give more pleasure. So that's the way, that's the reason sophists used to inspire the youth that they have to accumulate more wealth by being in the politics. And friends, now if you see Socrates' theory of educations or Socrates' theory of knowledge, it is totally different from sophist way of teaching and way of encouraging the youth. So for sophist, virtue is acquired power, means excellence is to acquire the power, or knowledge is to acquire more power or accumulate more wealth. For Socrates, it was not enough to know how to acquire power, but how we ought to live our life. Rather than knowing what constitutes life, it was more important to know what constitutes a good life or virtuous life. That is what Socrates is saying. So now Socrates talks about good life. So let us know what is good life according to Socrates. As per Socrates, the objective of life is to lead a good life. And in order to lead a good life, we should have knowledge. Good life, in other words, unexamined life is not worth living. Here, virtuous life. Good life basically means that virtuous or a peaceful life. So let's see, friends, what actually this statement means. Unexamined life is not worth living. The words were spoken by Socrates at his trial after he chose to death rather than to exile. See, friends, actually, when he was giving the right educations, actually, sophist educations was prominent there. When Socrates gave the right education to the people, to the youth of Athens, the the ruling class thought that he's misguiding the youth, so that there was a sentence. The sentence was given to Plato's, that is death sentence, that he has to drink the hemlock, and he was sent to the prison. So when he was sent to the prison, his student Plato arranged everything to exile from the prison. But Socrates believed that philosophy, the love of wisdom was most important pursuits of wisdom through the questioning and logical argument by examining and thinking. His examinations of life, but he knew they would all die one day. As saying life without philosophy is unexamined life was not worth living. That is what he's explaining in this word called unexamined life is not worth living. He says, if one life is sacrificed for the betterment of millions' life, it's better or it's worth to sacrifice. So now we shall talk about Plato. That is, introduction to Plato. So Plato was born in an ancient Greek Athens. As you can see here, Plato was born in Athens. So Plato was from one of the wealthiest and politically active Athens. So that's the reason, being a wealthiest and politically active, he wanted to exile Socrates from the prisons. So that's the reason he could have helped, but Socrates didn't. And third one is school of thoughts. When we think about school of thoughts, basically it is believed that Plato is both idealist as well as utopian thinkers. So it is known as Plato is known as idealist thinker as well as utopian thinkers. So now let us look towards the prominent work of Plato. So the first book he have wrote during the young time, that was Republic, and the second one is the Republic was considered greatest of all his work. So that's it is also, see friends, Republic book is also known as concerning justice. So this book you have to remember properly. If you want, you can read from the outer sources. Not that important. But when we are studying about, when we will study next lecture about the theory of justice, there the Republic book will help you a lot. So the book Republic deals with the idea of goodness. So the book Republic was dealing with the idea of goodness. And the second book that was written by Plato was The Statesman. The book Statesman was written in transitional phase between young and maturity. When Plato was turning from young to maturity, he was writing this book called Statesman. In his book Statesman, Plato seems sadly conscious of realities of human life. He was sad about the realities by knowing the realities that how human life is, how the humans or how the life of Athens peoples is. From that, he was really sad. And the third book that Plato worked upon, that was the Law. The Law book was written at the time when Plato was mature and being pragmatic. At the age when he was mature, he wrote this book, and it was the last book and longest book written by the Plato. So it was considered as longest and last book written by the Plato. And further we move, Plato's source of influence. So we shall know that what was Plato's source of influence. So how Plato got influence from the ideas of Pythagoras. So first he got inspired from the Pythagoras. So according to Pythagoras, the entire universe is based on mathematical principle. So he have understood that whatever we see here, it is all means whatever we see here is made up of mathematical principles. We see different buildings, we see different designs. So everywhere there is mathematics. That's what he got inspired from the Pythagoras. And one more thing he got inspired from Pythagoras, that is theory of soul, that we will study further. And the next one, that is Heraclitus. According to him, change is characteristics of the world. So whatever is there today will have a change tomorrow. So why? Because change should go on continuing. For example, today if you see the sun, there is a reaction and change will take place. Definitely there will be a reaction there. And the third one we see here, that is permanence. Along with the change, continuity and permanence is also characteristics of the world. See friends, first of all, when we have born, we were kid. After kid, we were adult. Adult to now we become old. After becoming old, we finally die and become ash. So, so from kid to adult and adult to old men become again, our body turns into rash. So you can see the changes that have took place here. How a small baby our body turns into ash. At last, there is a formation of ash, and finally, everything completes. And the next one is theory of soul. Here, friends, see, friends, now we'll study about theory of soul. So, before we study theory of soul, so every person in every bodies, there is one component that is very important, that is soul. So, every soul has three elements. The first thing is reasons, courage, appetite. So, these three will be compulsory in every individuals. It matters. See, one thing definitely differs. That is which one is prominent in someone's, like some may in some bodies regions might be prominent, in some other bodies courage might be prominent, in some people appetite might be prominent. That is what here they have classified. The first one is regions. So the regions, in any person's region dominates, so that man is considered as man of gold or the rational. So they are fit to be the rulers, means they can make the rules, they are fit to be the rulers. And the second one is a person's in whom courage is prominent. So that man is fit to be the soldier class for the security purpose. And the third one, in whom the appetite is prominent or appetite is dominant, are should to be the producer class. So these on this basis of qualities or the elements of the soul, this classification took place. See, friends, before we study about the ideas, first we have to know about this statement. This is very important statements. In fact, sometimes it have even come in the examinations of PSIR paper 1. So that is reality is shadow of ideas, isn't it? Let's understand. It explains Plato's concept of reality. Plato, when we look at the material world, we think that world is real. Here, material world, they think that world is real. It happens because our ignorance. The yes, friends, everything that whatever wrong things happens, whatever you think that whatever we consider that yes, something is very interesting, it gives pleasure or something materialistic. It is all about our ignorance. We do not think in a virtuous manner. So, what we consider as real is an illusion of reality. So, that is what we are going to study in the allegory of cave. We'll understand better in a allegory of cave what is all about illusions of ideas and reality of ideas. So, here, allegory of caves. So, in the Republic, Plato uses the story of allegory of caves to illustrate the three different levels, that is, illusions, ignorance, and real knowledge. To differentiate between these three, we will understand with the story of allegory of caves. Plato says in the allegory of caves, he says that there is a cave. Inside the cave, some peoples are sitting here who are ignorant. They are sitting here and their hands are chained to this wall. And you can see here there is a fire and some peoples with the long sticks with some symbols of horses and different shapes. They are moving backward and frontward. They are moving here and there so that these fires can reflect the object shadows here. So you can see the shadow of this object here and the object that are formed here. These people consider this object as real and they think this is only the real world, but that is not the reality. And he says one of them may get freed and come outside of this. When he came outside, he observed the real world. When he observed the real world, he was shocked that whatever he was seeing inside was just an illusion. But whatever he had seen outside was the reality. So when he came inside, and when he came inside and said some informations about the outside world, about the real world, they were laughing, they were making fun of him. That yes, because they were ignorant, they considered this cave inside the cave as the real world because they are used to this cave and they end their life in the cave. But the person who have seen the reality, that who have gone outside of this cave, will know the reality of the world and he will feel very happy of seeing the real world. So from this, one have to move out of the comfort to know the reality of the world. See friends, scholars have classified the reality into two types. The first one is matter and the second one is ideas. So we are going to study here theory of ideas. So, the theory of ideas is one of the ideas that most learners of Plato find difficult to grasp it. And for Plato, form of idea cannot be seen, but only we understand through the reasons and honesty. As explained by Plato, everything we see around us has an ideal form. Every object has a corresponding ideal form. Example, in nature with beautiful flowers or the fruits. So these are just a matter that we can feel, we can touch, we can taste that. But when we talk about ideas, ideas cannot be visualized since they are not object of senses. Just like you cannot visualize the idea of justice, courage. These are objects of understanding rather than senses. This can only be understood. This can only be imagined, but cannot be tested, cannot be touched, cannot be felt from the our sensory organs.